welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. I'm your host, Max Mosier, here today with one other Infinity Bro and a special guest we will get to in a moment. But first, it is the person who says we are sticky together and absolutely ruins me every time we are together. It is Infinity Bro Mark Jones.
You're right, Max. I do ruin you every time we're together. That is 100% correct statement from Max Mosier, not me. I'm glad to be here in Infinity Bros universe because I get no more joy than recording with the bros and guests.
Bro and guest, single bro.
Well, he's such a, compassing person that he's
Sure.
almost like multiple people.
Sure. Would you?
You calling me fat?
No, I'm not.
Was that just
nobody's calling anybody fat here.
That's body shaming, Mark.
I'm big, so I can body shame people. So
no, it's cool. I know a fat person. It's fine.
Yeah, they let me say that.
And on that note, welcome our guest from the Christian Nerd Podcast. It's our dear friend of the show, Scott Higa. Scott, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on the Infinity Bros podcast. I believe this is my third appearance. I don't know if that makes me like leader in the clubhouse, but I'm excited and honored and felt gracious that you would invite me on. So I'm happy to be here.
Once you get to 5 times, you get a jacket.
I was just going to ask that. Do we treat it like SNL?
Five timers club.
Right. Yeah. Do we do that?
But we only have one jacket. So hopefully you're an XL.
No, but my friend, he can wear it for me.
The guy.
Mark, have you ever been on the Christian Nerd Podcast?
No.
Is this awkward? Or you? No, I haven't had Zane on either. So are these the only two Infinity Bros?
No, I'm just wanted to ask the question and get it out there. I'm not insinuating anything. I just wanted to ask a question.
Have you been on the show, Max?
Haven't.
Oh my goodness, this is awkward now.
Yeah, you've had Isaac on like 7 times, and I just want you to know that that's painful for you, not me.
Know. I remember you guys talked about, I think it was on the patrons, like who would be most likely to leave the Infinity Bros, and Isaac was pretty up there because he has all these connections and he wants to go do more Christian content, and so I'm just waiting with open arms. I'm gonna seduce him, actually.
It'd be a pretty easy shift for you too. You just slap an S on the end of Christian Nerd and you're done, right?
Well,
the Christian Nerd.
Before I had a co-host and it was just the Christian Nerd. But you know what?
Really?
I'm not going to go back to that because it's too much editing.
No.
Like, it's just awful.
It's something. Like,
I can imagine there's many things on the cutting room floor that were they to get out, the Infinity Bros might be canceled.
Several. I think there's about 3 of us that for sure would be cut if that happened.
I still want to know, there was something that somebody said. Oh, what was it? Like there was a text message, like Zane said something that was so bad.
I still don't know.
Group chat.
To this day, I still don't know.
A group chat with 11 guys, and only Robbie and I saw what
That's
Zane
right.
said.
That was I loved that conversation. Just the thing that Zane said,
and it was in reference to Max in some way. And out of everyone, Robbie and I were like, no.
On his deathbed, Mark, when you were standing over Max's dying body because you have finally vanquished your nemesis, you whisper in his ear as the light fades from his eyes what that text message said. The last thing he remembers in his life is you telling him what Zane said.
No, I grab him by the collar and I yell in his ear, "I beat you." Like Daredevil the Kingpin.
Put a hood over your eyes.
Yeah.
So I can't even look you in the eyes.
And there's Sarah and the doctors are ripping me away from your body on the hospital bed.
You can't do it. Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and Twitch and Discord. All of these links are in the show notes below. We will also have a link if you can stomach him, Scott, which a lot of us, there may have been a quick heading over to another podcast. You can check out the Christian Nerd. We will have a link to his show as well. That's the only cross promotion we're doing, though, Scott. I don't want to hear you bringing it up anymore. I don't want to hear any special events you're doing. Just let's keep the cross promotion.
Just from here on out, only Infinity Bros content.
Yeah,
Here with me,
let's
the Christian nerd,
trust.
Scott Higa
Yeah,
at
trust the process here.
thechristiannerd.com.
Yeah, no way,
Do you, I hear,
Jose.
is there a Slack group people can join too for Christian nerd stuff?
There is. We got a Slack group with a Christian nerd. It's called the Octagon. It's a great place to hang out. It's like your Discord server, but people participate.
Oh,
That was rude.
Oh my!
Jeez.
Oh,
Wow.
woo! Oh
That was
my
so
goodness!
mean. Email me, Scott the
All
Christian
right,
nerd. I'll get you added to that.
we're podcasting. We're doing it.
Open up.
Before we get into our
Discord server
advertised
right now.
content, which you will get to, so cool your jets out there, whoever's getting frustrated.
Calm down.
How offended on a scale of 1 to 6? We rate things 1 to 6. We'll put the bumper in later. On a scale of 1 to 6, how offended do you get when people make jokes like go to therapy instead of starting a podcast, Scott? Because like that rhetoric's going around a little more right now. I think in the atmosphere, in the Twitter sphere, excuse me.
People who say that don't know how much a therapist costs, because sometimes a therapist, just one session can be anywhere from $180 to $500.
Sure.
So those people can go F themselves. So
I think actually, Mark, I know you're
Those people can
being
go
serious, and I don't
eat
disagree with
crap.
you.
So therapy is expensive, and as we discussed in the pre-show, and if you want access to that, become a patron of the Infinity Bros at patreon.com/the Infinity Bros.
Smooth. Very smooth.
You would hear me discussing my greatest fears of living in the golden state of California, and a number of those are related to the cost of living out here. So the cost of therapy is very expensive, and I did try finding a therapist earlier this year, and I looked at all the therapists that were available through my insurance, and none of them were accepting new patients.
Yep.
Like they weren't. So that was tough. And yeah, a therapy session is $150, $200. Do that 2 or 3 times a month. My Libsyn costs $20. So it's much cheaper for me to turn on this microphone,
Sure.
talk into it, share all my feelings, maybe cry a little bit, talk about an existential crisis I'm going through, and then put a nice bow on it, and then, go on with the rest of my day.
And
Sure.
basically, you're doing what you might do in a therapy session that some therapists will tell you to do. It's like, oh, you should go talk to people with this. You should have a journal. So, you know what you do? You have your own podcast that you talk about stuff. It's basically your living journal. So,
I just find it funny that the same people that go like, hey, do whatever makes you happy. Just do whatever makes you happy. For some reason, doing a podcast doesn't make them happy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're podcasting. Unbelievable.
There's less healthy things to do. We could go out
There's-
and be drinkers.
Mark,
We could go be going to the bar and spending hundreds of dollars every night drinking.
You're right.
So
We could, but here we are. Just 3 nerds enjoying some podcasting.
I've got vodka in my water bottle right now. There you go. Just kidding. It's water.
Or
with
is he?
vodka.
And
With lemon.
with vodka and lemon.
It's just water. Ice cold water in my hydro flask. Do you guys have hydro flasks out there? Like the Midwest seems
We
to be
love
more
hydro
Yeti-
flasks.
more-
Big
more
hydro.
Yeti
Oh yeah,
country.
big Yeti family over here at the Mosier home.
Actually, Scott, there's a thing called a thermos that just looks like this giant missile. That's what we have in the Midwest. We had those before it was cool, so
I remember going on road trips with my grandpa, and he had like his legit thermos,
Yep.
and he would just pour hot coffee into
And
the
it had the
thermos
cup
lid.
for the lid.
Yeah, and just drink it, driving his van. I was like, man, you're a gangster, grandpa.
Yep.
Drinking your hot coffee that you made 4 hours ago.
And it's still hot.
You didn't come here to talk about hot chocolate, hot coffee,
And we
hydro
don't tell
flasks.
people what they come to do.
Mark, just
listening
let
to a
me
podcast.
do this. You came here to listen to our rhetoric on
Get
Guardians
the
of the
show
Galaxy,
on
the
the
holiday
road,
special.
Max.
You came to hear us talk about the Ant-Man trailer, and then, of course, our main event, the Black Adam movie, which just premiered with The Rock. First, we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special, and rate it. But before we do that, one, we want to make sure you know, we're going to spoil everything we talk about in these trailers and the movie. So this is your universal spoiler warning. We're going to put that right here.
Infinity Bros Podcast.
And then we're going to give you the rating system if this is your first time. We talked about it initially earlier, but we want to make sure you are familiar with our rating system and how we rate things on this show.
I never hear the ratings anymore because I just listen to the patron feed.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
Like,
if you listen to
I
the
never hear
Patreon,
drops
yeah,
anymore.
you don't have to hear the drops if you listen to the Patreon. Another good reason to subscribe.
If there's a new one, I'm not gonna. I won't know. You have to let me know. Text it to me.
Yeah, I'll let you know if we do a new one. I have a couple kids that listen from Young Life, and they just like, your bumpers are stupid. I'm like, get your own podcast.
Get some therapy and then get your own podcast.
Yeah, get your own. If you don't like it, don't listen.
Do you tell them to go back to
Star-Lord,
their dad's
Drax.
yacht?
Yeah, well, actually, one of them does live on the lake, so Andy has a trampoline in the lake. That's Brando. Brando did our
Pretty neat.
on our podcast, our little intro. He's the one that wrote the intro.
Nothing like privilege.
Okay,
Am I right,
easy,
kids?
Mark. Now I gotta edit that out. I gotta edit that part out. It was good till that part. Congrats, patron people. Guardians of the Guardians of the Galaxy the Holiday Special stars Star-Lord, Drax, Rocket, Mantis, and Groot as they engage in some spirited shenanigans in an all-new original special created specifically for Disney Plus. This will star Chris Pratt, Pom Clementif, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel, Karen Gillan, Sean Gunn, and we've done the spoiler bumper already. So Mr. Kevin Bacon will be introduced to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is how they put it on the trailer.
As Kevin Bacon?
As Kevin Bacon, that's what they're crediting him as. And Maria Bakalova, who was in the second Borat movie, she will be playing Cosmo the dog. There's a Michael Rooker credit on IMDb. I'm not 100% sure if that's a
IMDb
reality or not.
had Matt
Daredevil
Murdock
being in
like
6
six
episodes of
Yeah, there you
She-Hulk.
go.
Yeah,
like,
so I'm
IMDb,
just saying it's on
go shove
IMDb.
it.
Sure. Scott, we'll start with you. What is your rating of this trailer, and what did you think of it?
I would give this trailer, a rating of, let's give it a 5 out of 6. That sounds pretty solid. It looked funny. I mean, it looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy having Christmas holiday fun. And Groot looked a little weird. Like teenage Groot looked kind of like buff or weird, and it made me wonder, like, so because they go to Hollywood, and then they're walking down Hollywood Boulevard, and no one thinks anything because it's Hollywood, and everybody looks weird anyway. So I wondered, were they going really meta? Was like there a version of like a Groot dressed up person on Hollywood Boulevard? But I think it was just Groot. And then yeah, Kevin Bacon just shows up to be Kevin Bacon, and that is great. And so I'm very excited, and I really like the special presentation logo that they have at the beginning of this, and that they had at the beginning of Werewolf by Night, just all the glittery rainbowness. So 5 out of 6. I'm excited to watch this at the end of November, right? November 25th.
Yes,
Something
it
like
is
that.
coming out right after Thanksgiving. You're correct.
Oh my goodness. I'll cook 3 turkeys and be stuffed to the brim and then watch Groot.
100%. Mark, I'll go next and I'll leave you for the next. Yeah, I'm going to stick at the same rating, 5 out of 6, because my like understanding of this, I kind of had a really low expectation of this. I was like, this is just happening, whatever, who cares? And for me, what makes this trailer is the showing of the plot, which is Kevin Bacon being the Christmas present. I think that's really clever. I think it's a great way to incorporate them coming back to Earth, especially with them kind of stepping away. This group appears to be stepping away after Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm glad they're giving us a little time on Earth. That's something I've always felt like. I know it's part about being in the galaxy. I just wanted a little bit of time on Earth. I hope this scratches that itch so the third Guardians of the Galaxy can go to all the corners and centers of space that they need to go to. I think my only kind of issue with it is that I want Gamora in it, and that might just be an unrealistic expectation. But that's for me why it's not a 6 out of 6. So, Mark, I'll pass it off to you.
I probably also would give it a 5 out of 6. I looked at it more of like the aspect of it, like, am I really excited for this to be a Christmas, like, or they call it holiday special, but like,
Right, it's a Christmas movie,
like really like get my heart going about it being Christmas, or is it just going to be a goofy, mess around? And yeah, like seeing Kevin Bacon actually just be Kevin Bacon, which then makes me think, like, will there be a reference to Sebastian Shaw at all? Is that how we get the X-Men?
Sure.
He becomes Sebastian Shaw in the middle of this, because that'd be wild. If people don't know, he plays Sebastian Shaw in X-Men First Class. Kevin Bacon does. So
there's got to be a joke that James Gunn can pull off there.
Is he the one who directed this too?
Yeah, he directed and wrote it.
He actually took the joke with him to DC, so it's not.
The joke is now with DC. Sorry,
but also, this was done last year, right? Like, this was supposed to come out last year.
Oh, I don't know that answer.
So anyways, I just wonder if this is like the original, like what we were going to get last year.
They filmed this as they were filming Volume 3, so it wasn't.
It was yes.
It
so
was
that
shot
is
while
true,
they were
Scott.
shooting Volume 3,
and it's set after Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
So then Thor: Love and Thunder is supposed to take place 2 or 3 years after Endgame, right?
Correct.
Isn't that right? Okay.
The timeline's all timey-wimey.
Yeah,
though I did like so. when they
Yeah.
showed
Well,
up at
it
the
would
house,
actually technically be 3, Scott, because Thor gives an exact amount of time between when him and Jane Foster broke up.
she was like, "It feels like more like 8 or 3." Yeah.
Right.
I
So
was left a little bit with bated breath, like when they were like talking to the speaker. I'm like, whose house are they at? I thought they were going to be at David Hasselhoff's house, but they already
Oh,
used
you're
Titanic
right.
Volume 2. So I was like, oh, Kevin Bacon. Of course that makes sense. So I really liked that.
Because
Quite.
Kevin Bacon's an Avenger, right? Because they
yeah,
make the reference to that
that's
in Infinity
interesting.
War.
That's interesting, right? Because they worked with the Avengers. Yeah. I guess I just want to see Gamora, but I think it's just too unrealistic of an
You'll
expectation.
just have to
for
wait
me.
till May of next year
I know.
to see Gamora.
It feels weird to me.
Or
Whoa,
in
we're
the
playing music here.
or in
Whoops,
the
sorry.
quantum realm.
More like Galessa. Shut up. You're so stupid.
Let's transition over to Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Thanks, Scott. Speaking of Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne, along with Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, will explore the quantum realm, where they interact with strange creatures and embark on an adventure that goes beyond the limits of what they thought was possible. This will be directed by Peyton Reed. Obviously, credit goes to Jack Kirby, the creator of this. Jeff Loveness is getting the screenplay credit, with Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, and a very, very dressed to the nines Jonathan Majors. Catherine Newton will be coming in as the new Cassie Lang. We get a shot of Bill Murray in this trailer. Michelle Pfeiffer is back. Michael Douglas is back. Credit right now is saying Randall Park will be coming back to this. Jimmy Woo will return in this. And then there's rumors that MODOK will be played by a lot of different people. The biggest one I've heard has been Corey Stoll, who is Darren Cross from Ant-Man 1. Let's talk about this
Like he
trailer.
turns
It's a
into
little.
MODOK?
That's what the rumor is.
I heard it was Jim Carrey.
That's a little bit.
I heard that MODOK
That
was
would kill.
Bill Murray.
No, Bill Murray is definitely Krylar. That is an official credit.
Oh, I don't even know what a Krylar is.
Well,
Yeah,
it
I
would also be
believe-
the first time Marvel has credited someone as one character and then is revealed in the movie that they're not that character.
Like when they tried telling us that Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't Khan. He's like, no, he's a guy named John.
Yeah,
It's like, okay,
kind of like
sounds
that.
good.
Sure.
Star Trek. Yeah.
Max would understand. He's not cultured like us.
Let's talk about this trailer, because there's a couple things in this trailer that I want to dive deep into.
How deep we
And
dive?
one of them in particular is around the rings that are displayed. So obviously the comedy of this trailer is really strong. We're seeing Scott have some people that know him really well, and then other people who are calling him Spider-Man. We're seeing Cassie Newton playing his daughter in this. And my question to you guys is, one, on a scale of 1 to 6, what's your rating of the trailer? And then if you could tell us, what is your rating of Jonathan Majors' introduction officially in a trailer as Kang? Because in Loki, he was not introduced specifically as Kang. He was introduced as the man who
remains, right? He
who remains. It was this vague name. It's obvious after you watch it, it's Kang. But Mark, I'll go to you. Tell me your rating of those two things: this trailer and the introduction of Jonathan Majors. Do you feel like this was pulled off by Marvel as a menacing villain?
Well, yes, I think it was. 6 is across the board for me. The thing I love about the trailer is the use of "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" by Elton John through the whole thing. Like, I think that was great. But yeah, with Jonathan Majors being introduced as King, it like makes me like on two paths. Is this movie like we're really like it was so like menacing but like also innocent, it felt to me. Like, is he like what is he offering Ant-Man? What happens in this movie where Scott Lang's got to decide, do I partner with this guy? Like, has he seen him do some evil stuff, or is he trying to like what would be the word like trick or manipulate Scott to help him, but actually it's going to be for something more sinister that Scott doesn't understand. So like that's what I kind of got from the trailer. Is like some like because there's a scene where like there's a bunch of like destruction behind Scott and it's like just him, I think. So I'm really, I'm torn to what is like I told Max pre show. Is Kang going to be the good guy here, or a perceived good guy, and then turn on him at the end, and that's kind of going
Like
to
a
be like the big
Mysterio
break.
kind of almost how they did in Spider-Man
Sure,
2.
something like that, but
Yeah.
probably with a
Maybe.
bigger payoff.
I don't know. The poster of him holding the Ant-Man and Wasp in his hand was pretty sick. Also, it's good to see posters get away from the typical floating heads model. Scott, what's your thoughts around this?
I give this trailer a 6 out of 6. I thought they snuck it up on you, right? There's no, because sometimes like, and here's a trailer for the trailer, you'll see it tomorrow. Like I was
Sure.
just sitting at Panera drinking coffee, and I'm like, oh, there's a trailer to watch. And, break out the AirPods, like watch right there. It looks so good, and into the Kang being intimidating, I was immediately I'm scared of Kang. Like he, I was thinking about it. Like Thanos was great, right, over the entire Infinity War saga, introduced in at the end of Avengers, but Thanos is he's a blunt object, right? He just wants the stones. He's gonna snap it. And he's gonna, like, we even saw that in Endgame, right? He just wails on fools. Like he's just a blunt force object. Whereas Kang is just, he's got plan on top of plan on top of plan. Yeah, he is menacing. And so to go from he who endures or survives at the end of
He
Loki,
Who Remains, yeah.
He Who Remains, of just talking circles around Loki and I forgot her name. Dang
Loki.
It. Now I sound like misogynist because I can't
Enchantress?
remember.
Sylvie.
Sylvie.
Which one do you want?
Talking circles around them, and then just like the couple words that he says in this, and just like the way that he looks, where he's all lit up, and Jonathan Majors is yoked and totally jacked. And I read the Kang Dynasty comic run from the Avengers. I think it was like 20 something. I think it was like 2008. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And just this guy just has plans on plans on plans on plans. And so I think he's a much different villain than Thanos, where Thanos you're just scared of him because he's so big, and Kang is just so sinister and cunning.
And that's where I think like this movie, he's going to look like the good guy right away, because that's his plan. He wants to help Scott, and whatever he's helping Scott with, Kang might actually be the reason why Scott needs help.
Yeah.
But he needs, some like trust, some bond formed. I don't know. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm along for it.
I went from like, I'm excited about every move in the MCU because I'm a total mark, right? To,
oh
my gosh, this looks so
weird. 2 marks on one show. No, Mark, I'm gonna
disagree. Podcast will break off from the Infinity Rose. 2 marks and a max.
2 marks and a max. 2 marks and a max. In your face, Isaac. No, Mark, I'm actually going to disagree with you. I really don't think they're going to take any approach with Kang being perceived as good. I do think his big over-encompassing plan will not be displayed in this. I think it will be little bits and pieces that connect to several properties. And I want to talk about one of those properties here in a moment before I give my review. But I think for me, Jonathan Majors is so quintessential for this whole MCU phase 5 through however far they want to go. Because if you cannot match what they were able to accomplish with Thanos dating back all the way to the first Avengers movie in 2012 or 2010?
2012.
Whatever year, that year. If you cannot accomplish,
I know you guys were 13, but it was 2000.
Yeah, well, Mark was watching Van Wilder when that happened. But if they can't accomplish a villain being overarching in every single property, this probably isn't going to work this time around. And I think Jonathan Majors has the acting chops. I think his physique, as you see in Creed 3, if you watch that trailer, he looks tremendous in that. And I think the costume design in for him in this movie looks great. I think the costume design for other people, the fact that they're comparing it to the Spy Kids 3D movie is actually very funny to me. And I do think it points out a couple weird flaws in it. That all being said, this trailer to me is a 5 out of 6 as well. I don't think
as well.
Here's my big dilemma with
6.
Excuse me?
You're the only one who gave a 5 out of 6, so it can't be.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying the reason I give it a 5 out of 6, I'm giving it a 6 out of 6 on Jonathan Majors. I think he can do it. I think how he looks and how they're showing him and the limited dialogue, I'm all for it. But in the context of this trailer, this movie is right now just, it's Kang, and that bothers me. I want to see more of Scott. I want to know more of the stakes. I know that gives away more of the plot point by saying what he is doing, but you've got to give us a little more. That second trailer is going to give it to us, so people like Scott who don't watch the second trailer aren't going to hear that. But to me, I really want to know. I think, tell me why are they in his hand? I want to know that. You don't have to tell me the
why do you want to
outcome.
know that now 5 months before the movie comes out? Why don't you want to know that
That's
I want
when you're
well,
watching the
pontificate.
movie?
Max needs to know exactly what happened so he can go into the movie already disappointed or excited.
Shut up. No,
That was
I
you in
like.
Doctor Strange, was it not?
No, that was not me in Doctor
You knew
Strange.
you knew
Doctor
what was
Strange.
happening.
Doctor
You
Strange was a genre
'cause
movie that does not scratch an itch for me.
sifting through the internet, and then
Nope.
stuff gets spoiled for you, and then you're like, "Don't go on the internet, guys." 'Cause
I
you get
accidentally
spoiled. I'm
got
like,
spoiled
no
about the big.
crap.
I did not even look for it. It just popped up.
It just appeared. The internet just came.
Yeah, I was
to
out
me
there.
in
I
a
was like,
vision.
okay, who's in Doctor Strange 2? No, I wasn't doing that. Anyway,
Max, your
moving
voice when you like do your impersonation of you sounds exactly what I think you sound like. I mean, it's just
Thank you.
It's uncanny, just dead on.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. No, I want to know more of what Scott's dilemma is in this because Mark, there is an audience and group of people that think he's going to die in this. Do you think that's a chance?
Paul Rudd
To
is
kind of
immortal,
really set Kang
so
apart
I
and be like,
don't- well, that's true.
like to really be like, you know what? Kang is such a badass that he killed Paul Rudd, comedian Paul Rudd.
I think if anyone, the two trails of thought here. I go back to their whole agenda for like young heroes. I know you get a young villain, like at least actor wise, where it's like, how long are they planning to move these people up that you have these young heroes, young villain? How many years in the future are we going? With that, I would say yes. I think you probably might kill Ant-Man. I don't know why you would do it now in the third movie, where it's like, I just don't get. I don't. It better make sense and it better be purposeful if they do that. But if someone's getting killed, money's on Cassie.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Because I think that's because we're still going to the Broken Avengers thing, and we still got time. What happens to Scott Lang if his daughter dies, or not just dies, gets killed by Kang?
Yeah, you're not, because you can't.
Does he go towards?
That's a really good point. You can't take away powers from Scott because then he just goes to being popular. Like the only thing he really has in his life is his family, and we saw him go through that in Endgame, but his dilemma of where they were was more of a passing of time versus grieving Hope's loss, for example.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's an interesting arc. Scott, do you think there's a chance that Scott Lang dies in this?
Nah, because I mean, Paul Rudd wasn't clueless, you guys. Like, he's just gonna keep making movies forever, and he'll be Ant-Man forever. But like, if somebody's gonna die, I wouldn't say Cassie because I think they want to do young Avenger stuff. But maybe Hope. Maybe Hope Van Dyne dies.
That's interesting. All three of us are taking different approaches of who they think.
It's gonna be Michelle Pfeiffer, and we'll be sad.
That's true. Michelle Pfeiffer or Michael Douglas would be layups too, right? Because of their age and
or Kang.
They don't have to be contractually obligated to the rest of these movies.
Kang gets killed by Kang. Maybe.
Maybe.
There's all these Kangs out there.
Do you think there's a reference in this movie to Reed Richards?
Probably. They've got to start laying the groundwork for that Fantastic Four movie, and he's all quantum realmed out.
I don't know. I mean,
they disappeared in the 60s and nobody knows about him, and they show up. Maybe they show up at the end of this movie in the quantum realm. It's like there's John Krasinski looking all statuesque.
Does Loki appear in this movie? I just feel like I just feel like there has to be one hero. I don't know why.
You guys have sucked me into your Max and Mark just have outrageous. What about this? What about this? What if Godzilla shows up in this movie, you guys?
Well, welcome to
why
the
not?
Weeds.
Why can't Godzilla?
Yeah. It's a great point, Mark.
It's Kang holding Ant-Man the Wasp, and then Godzilla holding Kang at the same time.
And Mark, he's bigger than everybody else. That's what would make him such a formidable opponent for Kang.
Know who's holding Godzilla?
Beast is going to be in the movie.
Oh, there you go. There's the connection.
Evil Beast.
No, Mark, I don't disagree with you. I think Marvel is saying the hero or extra person in this, because every movie's got to have somebody else. Like Thor has the Guardians, Doctor Strange had Wanda. I think Kang is that person. I think they introduced him in Loki, so everybody was like, he's here.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Here's the bad guy. I think Kang is that person for this movie. And I think the big misdirect will be whatever MODOK is. And I don't know if that's going to be Darren Stoll. I don't know if that's going to be somebody else we know. or he'll be comedic, or if he'll change sides. I don't know. But I think those are likely circumstances versus deaths of specific characters. The last thing I want to talk about here with you guys is the rings that make up his buildings. If you look at them in comparison to the 10 rings from Shang-Chi, are eerily similar of the patterns. Do you think that this is kind of the direction that they're going? If so, what direction do you think Marvel is utilizing things like the bangle and Miss Marvel and the 10 rings that Shang-Chi is currently possessing? Scott, let's start with you.
Well, if they're doing anything, because at the end of Shang-Chi, right, they said that they're calling out to something.
Yeah, it's like a pulse.
Sending out a signal, and that's what Janet Van Dyne freaked out about, because Cassie made this thing that was sending a signal out to the quantum realm, and the quantum realm responded. So if anything, I think it's just that there's all these artifacts spread throughout the Marvel universe that are calling out to something, and maybe this is what we find out what that something is, and maybe Kang, in some iteration of himself as traveling through time, planted these things, so when they all came together with Kamala's bangles and with the 10 rings and whatever else is out there, it's like, now's my time to show up and take over this planet, destroy it, subject its people. Who knows? But it could be something great. Like in that Kang Dynasty comic book run, like there's this great scene at the end that they can't have because he's dead, or not in the MCU anywhere. But it's like like, speaking of giant Godzilla, it was like giant Godzilla like Kang versus giant Captain America, and it was some awesome panels. So hopefully in Kang Dynasty we get a giant version of somebody fighting a giant
Just
version.
remember this, Scott. In Endgame, there was a scene when they're trying to travel through time, and Hulk travels time through Scott, making him younger. Old Man Cap exists. Therefore, hypothetically, same thing can happen to Old Man Cap.
They're totally doing that. I
Run
subscribe
time
with you, Mark.
backwards on him.
I'm with you on that, Mark. 100%.
Mark, do you have like a manifesto of all of just your crazy thoughts, like arranged from like not gonna happen to not gonna happen, but maybe?
On a scale of 1 to 6, he's got this manifesto
I got a
just
7.
ready to go. Couple
I just
sevens
pull
out
out this
there.
like giant binder, like, yep.
Speak of the devil.
Let me show you my wall behind me with all of my notes and stuff.
Actually, when you blacklight the paper wall, all the notes are there.
Looks like a Jackson
It's like the
Pollock painting
Riddler
back there.
Yeah. Yep.
Mark, I've sent you a couple of theories and thoughts on this from people. I personally think I'm subscribing to the theory that these rings are parts of his ship or his chair, the Kang chair, that allow him to travel through space and time and different universes. I am subscribing to that. I think Shang-Chi totally is going to have that. And I think Shang-Chi is going to be the way that they're going to travel through time. I think we'll see in Miss Marvel that the bangles are what transport people through space. And then the 10 rings will each either individually will have individual abilities and characteristics, or all together in unison with the bangle and whatever other item. I'm sure there's other items out there can do this big thing that Kang is looking to achieve. And I would assume he does it in some way to make Kang Dynasty happen. That's my theory.
Do you think at the end of Secret War or King Dynasty, She-Hulk throws Kang into our world to fight Kevin?
That would be really fun. I don't hate that. You just know the collective majority of mouth-breathing guys who hate She-Hulk right now are just like, oh my gosh. The eye cancer that is She-Hulk.
Less eye cancer, more eye candy. Shut up, dudes.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, bros.
Yeah. Misogyny. Yeah.
Any other theories, Mark, before we transition over to Black Adam?
Over under 6 times Scott makes a joke.
Over. Higa or Ant-Man?
Ant-Man, Scott Lang.
Oh, yeah, 6.
Over under 6 magic tricks Randall Park's character does.
Under, but if you set it at 3.5, that'd be the bet that you got to take. I think 3.5.
Okay.
Then I'm going to take the under because I think it's going to be 3 on the dot.
who do you think who do you think would most better chance of them showing up in this movie? Black Widow or Gamora? Or I'll throw a wild card, a Fox character property. Or
Fox
yeah,
character property.
okay. Like someone we
Yeah,
already
give me
know.
Fox character over the other two for sure.
Like does Deadpool like have a glimpse in this movie?
Yeah, maybe.
All right.
It'd be great if Deadpool was one of the wielders of one of those like items. Wouldn't that be
Yeah, right.
hilarious?
Like
That
that's
would
how
be
he gets
so awesome.
involved. Like his
Yeah.
sword is like one of those
Yeah.
things.
That'd be great. Black Adam. This movie just came out last week, October 21st. We're recording on the 26th. Nearly 5,000 years after he was bestowed with the almighty powers of the Egyptian gods and imprisoned just as quickly, Black Adam is freed from his earthly tomb, ready to unleash his unique form of justice on the world. This is directed by Jean Colette Sarah? Sorry ahead of time. Adam Steitzkel, Rory Haynes, stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson as Black Adam, Aldous Hodge as Hawkman, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate, Noah Centineo as Adam Smasher, Sarah Shahi as Adriana Tamaz, Quintessa Swindle as Cyclone, Marwan Kenzari, as Ishmael, and I believe he's credited as the King as well. Am I correct on that?
Probably. Just
I'm
with
about
some weird
99%
makeup
sure I
on.
saw that after the movie, that he played the king in the flashback as well. And then Samir was played by James Kisati Moyer. That was the kid, Samir. So
No,
this
the
movie
kid
came
was,
out. We all saw this, and we're going to break it down today. Mark, we're going to start with you. What was your rating of Black Adam as the residential DC expert?
As a movie, 5 out of 6. I feel like 20 minutes could have been shaved from this movie, in my opinion. Having said that, I really enjoyed the like actual like, you know, pardon my French, ass kicking Black Adam gave a lot of people.
Sure.
I really appreciated that out of all the movies and TV shows I've watched, someone's actually like, hey, you know what? Let's have a conversation, not just kick each other in the face and then like
Sure.
let chaos ensue. Like there was actually like, hey, let's talk about this. Why is, and then another good thing, why is Alden Hodge now just appearing in a superhero movie? Like I want more I was gonna say Black Hawk, Hawkman in my life with him playing it. Like that's, give me more Justice Society movies. That's what we need. I Pierce Bronson as Dr. Fate. Can't get enough of him. Another thing that gives me another 5 out of 6 is, with everything happening with Black Adam showing up, and then the villain at the end. Why didn't the Flash show up? Why didn't Superman show up? Also, this Kondak's on the sea, so like, why didn't Aquaman show up? Like, there's a lot of bad juju happening here, and no one shows up. That's my big gripe when we are an established world with superheroes, and no one else shows up besides the
That's
Justice
not really
Society.
fair in the context of Marvel movies and properties either. You got to make that argument in every one of those then.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, that's fine.
It's like, and what was it, the second Spider-Man movie makes a good point, like off-world, unavailable. Like at least we got something like that.
Yes. Give me some communication as to
But
why
see, like
they're
where I
not
go
there.
to that is like in Hawkman's ship, there's that computer that's like is able to detect threats. So assuming that happens, Batman must also have that.
100%.
So you're telling me he couldn't be like, hey, Aquaman, you gotta go check this out because there's some stuff happening. But, to digress though, I still enjoyed this movie as like an action movie, a superhero movie. I thought it was great, but I think I have a little more gripes because I'm a DC fan. But I'm okay with what they do with Kondak and his origin story. I loved basically the villain at the end of Sabat, and I like, are we gonna get some demon fighting Dark Justice League down the line? So I'm excited. I'm all in.
I think Scott just got scared, like real time. I think we
Sorry.
really saw him get scared.
Yeah, you really did. You should clip that one,
That's
Isaac.
awesome.
So can I see that, Clara?
That's
So my
great.
daughter, oh, you'll wind it up. I'll just show him. So she brought in this thing. It says rattlesnake eggs, total gag, and then you open it and it like it's a little rubber band with a thing. So it really did
Brilliant.
freak me out. So you got me, Clara.
Nice job,
Got him.
Clara.
Good job.
I want to make sure I credit this correctly. Boji Sabongui, excuse me, as Aman. I was incorrect. He is the teenage young man. Is Aman his name? I'm going to go next and let Scott go last. Mark, I'm on the complete opposite spectrum of you in this viewing experience. I liked parts of this movie, and so certain parts for me were significantly better, but my gripes are just more around the filmmaking than about the story. The story is, in my opinion, the most paint by numbers story outside of the twist at the end. Okay, that wasn't a terrible twist. But in the context of they tried, for example, they try really, really hard to make this more of a Marvel movie than most DC movies that are serious. Or Shazam is kind of a comedy, is what I would say. This movie, like, they're trying to force some jokes in. The Rock mailed it in
Yeah,
on this.
I would say some jokes, like I agree with you. Some jokes landed, and some were just like, that really wasn't right timing. I'm with
Sure.
you on
No,
that.
I get what you're saying. I just, the jokes were just like, and I'm like, look, give me more jokes in superhero movies. I love it. I'm all for it. I think it's the direction DC needs to go. The writing just wasn't there on this. And The Rock mailed it in. This was not a good performance by The Rock. And he looked bored. I couldn't believe watching him stay in like one tone the whole movie.
But that's
It
the
was
whole point of
difficult for
Black
me to
Adam, though.
process that. Hmm?
That's Black Adam as a character, though. He's a
That's an
one-time
argument you
guy.
could make. I think if you're going to display and convey that I'm mourning the death of my son and my people, and I have been resurrected in the way that he was, I would like to see a little more of the mourning process. That's just my opinion on that. I think this child actor was awful. The
Oh
kid that
yeah,
plays him on.
yeah. I would agree
I
with you on that.
cannot stress how bad
His
this kid was.
voiceover at the beginning was painful.
He is
So the
obnoxious.
parts that you could scrape out to make it a shorter movie are basically his parts. In my
They
opinion.
were trying to connect. The goal going into this was that the kid would be the humanity part for Black Adam to latch onto. Incorrect direction. Go with the girl. Go with the woman and lean into her. She's the one who brought you into the world. They don't have to fall in love. I know that's like a tempting piece of the puzzle as well, probably. But you do not need this kid on his stinking skateboard going all around. It was so obnoxious. It was brutal. It was painful. His lines, it
Oh,
was
that
the
was more
cheese
forced
factor
than
was
The
insane.
Rock, in my opinion.
Say it again.
Like, I would say his performance is way worse than what you say The Rock's performance is.
I just think The Rock did not give what I was for a guy that's been like saying, this is the movie, this is my crowning jewel. He is either not a good actor, which could be a possibility, or he did not give nearly as much as we thought he was going to give because it just did not feel like he was giving much. The other thing that's like wild to me about this movie, Mark, is that the Justice Society was tremendous. Like,
Right?
not good, great. They were all great. They were all awesome. Their power skill set was great. The Dr. Fate stuff was awesome. Absolutely tremendous. Pierce Brosnan was unbelievable. If they went with some movie about his character previous to this experience, I would be all in on watching it. I'm going to let other stuff. We'll talk about the other details in a bit here. We'll talk about the connection at the end as well. But this felt like a couple different movies wrapped into one. That's my problem. I
Well,
feel
I
like this
wonder
was
if
a Justice Society movie wrapped in with what The
right.
Rock wanted, wrapped in with we got to connect it to Shazam somehow because they got to go against him one day. Connected to, you know what? We're bringing Superman back, so we got to connect it there with Amanda
Not
Waller
just
and Suicide
Superman,
Squad.
Henry
It's
Cavill.
Yeah,
yeah,
this
just
is
okay, yeah. So
yeah, I
let's
get
you
you.
know
But let me
you
rate it, then I'll
finish
get Scott, and then we'll talk.
and Scott. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, I
I
want to
got it.
get Scott his
I'm
moment
too
because
giddy now. You
I
said
know,
stuff,
I
and
know,
now
I
we get
know,
to
I know.
talk about it.
There's things I like, but the biggest gripes are the story writing, The Rock, and the kid is 1 out of 6, no question. The Rock I'll give more of a 3 out of 6 because his presence alone is Black Adam in that regards. But he is gonna have to clean up this acting if he's gonna hang with the other guys that are up there in this universe. There's some really good actors in this universe. So I'm gonna sit at a 3 out of 6. It's to quote Robbie, this movie is mid. However, there are some things set up in the future that I like. So I'll give it to Scott now. Go ahead,
So
Scott.
what's your rating?
My review is 3 out of 6.
3 out of 6. Okay.
3 out of 6 is my rating of this movie.
I totally missed what this
I
initially.
too would give it a 3 out of 6, but not. I guess like Isaac always makes fun of me because I always rate movies on my show, and I think I talked about it when I talked about Black Adam. I go from bad's one rating, fine is my other rating, and then the other one is good. I mean, there's not a lot of middle ground. So for me, it was fine. I think that there wasn't much going on with The Rock's character, but I just appreciated that he wasn't playing The Rock. I think that was him
Yes,
stretching
that is
himself.
true. Yes.
That he stretched himself to not be Dwayne Johnson. Like he wasn't playing the
Yes.
same character that he plays in Fast and Furious, or I'm sure the Jumanji movies, which I haven't seen. Like he was something different, which was very interesting to see that, The Rock can do something different. There wasn't a lot of range in the different that he did, but it was different, which I appreciated. I thought the action was fine. I thought the kid was annoying. Like you, Mark, I thought they could have trimmed a couple minutes off. I mean, when Hawkman and Black Adam fought again, I just thought, oh my goodness, like I don't like this already happened. And
Yeah.
does Hawkman, like Mark, does Hawkman have powers? Like, are those wings
So-
a part of his body?
So
Does he have a
like this
suit?
for so like I don't know if they took liberties in the movie like changing up, but like from I know Hawkman is like his powers are like I'm blanking, like almost kind of like Egyptian, like it's like a gift to him. So like yeah, he's just like, as you saw, like when he first gets it, that just pops out of him. And the whole thing when they said he was gonna die, too, it's like, well, in DC, like he just gets reborn as Hawkman.
Exactly.
So it's like, to me, it's like that didn't seem like a big thing, but it seemed like a very, absolute like thing. Like he dies, he's done. But
Yeah, like it seemed like Black Adam is knocking down buildings and he punches Hawkman,
and that
Hawkman's
so
like,
again,
all right, I'll fly it off.
so and that's
I'm
that's
good.
why. So like that's why he's able to fight Black Adam, because he also has mystical powers.
Okay,
And that's
cool.
Black Adam's weakness.
That's what I was wondering. Like,
mystical
is this a
powers.
suit like Falcon, or is he got special powers? All right.
No.
So-
It's the suit's like kind of like, I'm not 100% sure in that lore, but like almost like it chose him, kind of like the helmet
Okay.
chooses fate.
All
Well,
right,
and
cool.
and it's a bit of a nerdy take to go like, you know what, if he dies, it's not the worst possible thing, right? Like he's just gonna come back. Like, however,
But that's a lot to explain in,
correct.
Well,
That's a lot to
exactly.
explain in an already
Like to
very
me, when that
dense
happens, I was
movie.
like, that's so.
That's what I
whatever.
thought too, Mark. Thank you. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, okay, but
But
here's
clearly,
where
that's
this,
not the case. There, he's like,
I didn't
I
know
don't
that.
know.
So
Let's
I
not
thought,
let that happen.
don't. Well, I actually wanted him to kill Hawkman because, like you said, Max, Pierce Brosnan was the best part of this movie.
by
By
a mile.
Far.
I don't.
He
no,
was
was
he
so
stole
good.
every scene he was in.
I would say him. Like to me personally, him and Hawkman. Those like that's what I wanted more of. I wanted
Hawkman-
a
Aldous
movie with
Hodge
just
was
them.
great. Yeah.
He was
like-
great, but he was pretty like, I mean, he's a sporting character, so he doesn't have to have a lot of depth character. He was like, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you again.
okay.
I'm going
And
to stop you,
him-
Devil Man.
Him in the suit, sure, but him out of the suit, like I wanted more of that.
Yeah.
Like
But
Where
I just feel
where
like-
they dropped the ball for Aldous Hodge in this movie is they had him say in 5 different ways, killing people is not what a hero does.
right.
Okay, we get it. You're talking about it. Let's get into the nitty gritty and show it. Let's go. And I think Aldous Hodge did the absolute best he could with the script he was given. He's tremendous. If they don't go a Hawkman movie after this, Mark, explaining all the stuff we're talking about, shame on them, because
And
Aldous
they even
Hodge
introduced
would
like
crush it.
Hawkgirl and like other Justice Society stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so-
additionally, let's go back to Pierce Brosnan real quick because I do
Alright.
want to spend some time on him. Pierce
Don't we all?
Brosnan. I mean, it's
Very much so.
do you think it's a shame that they killed him in this? because now you can't do anything in the future with him outside of a
Well,
prequel.
here's the thing. He apparates like his other things do. So to me it's like, did he really die? Or like did
Yes,
he want to retire? Type of thing.
but still, like, do we like? Not
I also
that DC is the best at like getting their plan executed correctly,
see
and not
Robbie's
that
gonna
I
be
have
so mad
delusions
seeing
of
this.
grandeur that he'd
He's gonna
make a
get a hero that's
trilogy after
killed
this,
and
but
a villain that's killed.
sure.
But you're right. Like, why kill him? Like, why?
Why did they kill him? I don't understand. The
I don't know.
stakes didn't,
And
or
the stakes didn't matter because they still brought Black Adam back. Where it's like,
oh, don't even
why
get.
didn't Doc?
We're
Hang
gonna
on,
talk about
why?
that in
Hang
a
on,
second. Yeah.
why? If that was Doctor Fate's idea, why didn't he apparate to the when he thought about that
Yeah.
to Hawkman to be like, hey, you know what? Don't let him Shazam himself. Keep him as Black Adam. We're gonna need him. Like, because then that just eliminates the Task Force X bunker.
I want to talk about the characters, then I want to talk about those moments. We'll come back to that. That part requires significant conversation. So we talked about the Pierce Brosnan. Anything to add, Scott? I know you've talked about him already, but
like he was freaking James Bond, right? And then so you plant somebody like he was Remington Steele in the 80s. Like Pierce Brosnan has been a massive movie star for decades, and you drop him in this movie. He doesn't have that much to work with the script or the story, but he managed to freaking shine so much brighter than anybody else. Like, right? It's like you watch a Mission Impossible movie, and Tom Cruise is insane, right? But when you see him on screen, there is something about him. Like, that guy is a freaking movie star, and that's how I felt every time Pierce Brosnan was on the screen. He was just so good. I love.
What's interesting, Scott,
and I
about
don't know
that
anything
scene.
about Doctor Fate, like at all.
Sure.
Like, I know zero. But I'm like, this is the most interesting character, and he's so good.
What I like about that scene that I know when they fight again. Yeah. What I liked about that scene wasn't them fighting. It was Pierce Brosnan's portrayal of just like he's sitting there like he's kind of speaking on behalf of the audience a little bit and saying like, this is a waste of your guys' time. Yeah. We're wasting time. This is ridiculous. We got to get this together. I felt like that scene was okay. There was other scenes that were ridiculous too. Let's talk about Quintessa Swindle, who plays Cyclone. My word, how they conveyed her powers in this was absolutely magical, Mark. Absolutely magical. DC absolutely crushed 6 out of 6 the Justice Society portrayal of their superpowers and how they were doing things and how they all four work together. She is tremendous in this. Very great. I was kind of laughing because I was like, you know what? They kind of Ironheart's a different skill set, but if they're going for like the smartest girl in the room with Ironheart, I think DC might have just beaten them to the punch with that. Yeah. Young girl, smartest young girl to the punch. I think they might have just done that. What were your thoughts on Quintessa Swindle as Cyclone?
I went into this just blind, basically. Like, I didn't know what to expect, and yeah, I would just piggyback on everything you said. It's like knocked it out of the park. I think, like the shining parts of this whole movie is the Justice Society. Like what they did there is what I think what people are gonna want more of, and I'm sure when you look at the Rotten Tomato score where it's like the critics say it sucks and the audience is like, oh no man, this like kicked butt. We're gonna talk heavy about the Justice Society. Like that's what we'll want. And I thought exactly that was every time she went and like used her powers, even with like I almost said Black Adam. I mean everyone's gonna be black something, I guess, for characters. For Atom Smasher. Like the visual representation they did, I think was pretty good in this movie.
Her dancing was beautiful too, just tremendous. Scott, your thoughts?
Samesies. I thought, again, know nothing about Cyclone, know nothing about the character's power set, but the way it's portrayed on screen, I thought, wow, that looks really, really cool. And her hair was flying everywhere and it was all colorful. I mean, since Batman 1989, since Superman in 78, 79, we're a long time in these superhero movies. So for something to pop up that looks really, really cool that you hadn't seen before is pretty awesome. That's like the one
time I think all four of them did, Scott. I think all four of them did it. Even Atom Smasher.
Yeah.
And Atom Smasher being played by Noah Centineo. First off, the cameo of Henry Winkler as the older Atom Smasher was
great.
Chef's kiss, brilliant call, great choice. 6 out of 6 that. Noah Centineo, here's something I think some people are going to say. Do we think it was kind of trying to play on a lighter version of Deadpool with how he looked in his mask, and that he was being a comedy the whole time? or were you able to disassociate that? Because the mask to me was Deadpool. It was like, oh my word, it's just Deadpool with a blue shade. His jokes are different. They're not the same shade of Deadpool, but the look of the mask is pretty identical to me. And I think people were talking about it when this first trailer came out, but I didn't give much thought to it till I saw the movie. What were your thoughts, Mark, on that?
Well, in the comics, he like has a similar suit, so I think it's just like it. It goes back to my thought about She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall. Is like, well, people are just gonna say, "Oh, Deadpool's done it first because it's in the
Sure.
movies." Same
Sure.
thing's gonna be here. It's just
Right.
Deadpool did it first, so like everyone's gonna compare it to Deadpool, even though
You didn't think
comics say
Deadpool though when
differently.
you saw it?
I mean, yes, there's some similarities.
Sure.
It's the eyes. It's the eyes portion that's
Yeah.
the similar part. But I mean, how different can you make a bodysuit look?
I agree. Just more
So,
curious if that invaded your viewing
but in the
experience.
comics, no. I mean, I heard comparisons before I saw this movie, but in the comics, he has like the blue like head covering with white eyes. So, I mean,
Scott, what about you?
I thought that's like Ant-Man, because Ant-Man gets really big.
Hmm.
And then I thought with the mask, so I'm like, the mask, like, it's a cloth mask. I don't know if it does anything for his power set. So all I thought in that was like, oh, they put a mask on him because it's really hard to CGI a giant face. And so it's much easier to CGI a big blue face. But I didn't know that that's what his costume looks like in the comics. It's really weird to go into these movies having like zero knowledge about the comics. Because when I go see a Marvel movie, I know a lot of things, right? Or like, have general knowledge. But to watch them like, who's this character? Is that what their power set is? I don't know. It's so I guess I feel like a normal person going in without, this encyclopedic knowledge like our friend Mark here.
Yeah,
well,
for
and,
me,
and, and
for
that's
me,
the
it's
thing.
just Hawkman and Dr. Fate. Everything else was like brand new to me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
And
Sorry.
I feel like I've talked about this with my beautiful wife Kelly, where it's like, yeah, if you know nothing about some of these like movies or comic book stuff, it's like, yeah, you're gonna be like, oh, they're just like you said, Scott, they're copying Ant-Man, they're copying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like
so it's
everybody everybody has a guy that grows huge. That's not anything original.
Why, yeah. Even though it's probably Adam Smasher might have been first. I don't know the timeline on that. But it doesn't matter. It's like who was in the movies first. That's what matters. And that's why there's the argument to be made. Be like, yeah, no, use the toys in the toy box that everyone knows, because otherwise this comparison stuff happens. Or do a character that hasn't been done on the other side. So that's why I think where Hawkman was so different, and then in Dr. Fate's situation, it's like, yeah, there's Doctor Strange, but Dr. Fate wears a helmet and it like possesses him, and then it's also Pierce Brosnan who like kicked it out of the park, so that leads some stuff there. So
And
yeah,
I kept calling him Hawk Guy, like
Hawk Guy.
Like that's all. Well,
and for me, I did not think he was Deadpool, Mark. That's not the point I'm making. I just was more of like, oh wow, that's like way more like the Deadpool movie than I thought this was going to be like. Because when I saw the trailers, for whatever reason, that just didn't click with me. All that being said, Adam Smasher was a breath of fresh air in this movie. His whimsical approach to life and his lack of experience, and Aldous Hodge saying "you and me" later, those jokes worked for me. Mm-hmm. Adam Smasher hitting on Quintessa Swindle's Cyclone was hilarious. Those were the jokes that I was like audibly laughing in the theater. I really enjoyed that.
I'm happy they still gave Cyclone a little bit of red hair, because Hollywood's just eliminating redheads.
We're back on the redhead comment. Yeah, we get it. Mm-hmm. We get it.
I see Nicole Kidman every time I watch a movie, Mark. They're not getting rid of redheads.
Well, they're going to keep one that everyone will remember. Look at this freak show over here.
No, I've got to edit again. Here we go. I got to edit again.
We got to edit out calling Nicole Kidman a freak show.
No, we'll keep that if you want. You want to attach yourself to that, Scott? We'll keep it.
I was in love with Nicole Kidman when I saw Batman Forever.
Right.
I'm sure you were.
I was like 5 or 6, but
I was 13, and it solidified my feelings that I was into women.
Mark, what did you? We're gonna move on. Mark, what did you think of the of the Council of Wizards transforming Shazam in the beginning? Excuse me, transforming Octon in the beginning of the movie, and it's basically, this callback to the Shazam movie
Sure.
with what's going on there. Was that exciting to you? Did you enjoy that sequence? I did, but I thought you did. What are your thoughts?
It made me actually want to go back and watch Shazam. I have not seen that since seeing it in theaters.
Oh, really?
And with all that said, like Shazam's one of my favorite DC characters, or Captain Marvel.
Yes.
The original Captain Marvel.
True.
Because I had such a sour taste of that movie because it wasn't what I expected. But my wife Kelly loved it because it's like, oh, this is more like a Marvel movie. It's like funny and actually enjoyable, not dark the whole time. But yeah, that scene, I was like, yep, appreciated it, and it's like, okay, I think I should go back and watch Shazam. So
I kind of was worried that there wouldn't be some connection to Shazam, and I don't know why I thought that coming into this. Because I guess my thought in this going was like, all right, is DC just going to make a solo movie with Black Adam and that's it? But this connecting point should have really been the telltale sign that, like, okay, this is connected to the greater DC universe, and whatnot. What did you think? So let's go to this. We talked about this earlier. The scene where they send him down into the water bunker, where we get the character. Forgive me, I'm forgetting her name right now. From
James Gunn's wife,
is that his wife?
Amelia Harcourt, Jennifer Holland. Yeah, they just got married.
Really? Okay, well, there you
Expect
go.
to see
Thank
a
you,
lot
Scott.
more of her in the DCEU.
Seriously,
Her and Michael Rooker
it's
are
not
showing up
the
a lot.
DCEU anymore, Scott. It's just DC Universe.
Is it?
Sure.
Yep, that was an announcement a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, where
Just DC Universe.
the DCEU is dead, and it's now just DC Universe.
Yeah.
So the DCU.
It's no longer extended.
DCU's fine. I like DCU. That's a better way to put it anyway, in my opinion. But yeah, she's down there, so you're connecting to Peacemaker, you're connecting to the Suicide Squad. Those parts felt actually much smoother in terms of connection points, in my opinion. But you get this total scene in the middle of the movie, Mark, and this is probably my biggest gripe in this movie, where it feels like the movie's done.
Right?
Like the movie felt done at that point.
I was like, all right, this is how it ends.
Yeah, me too. I was like, here we go. And I thought, okay, the sequel will be what happened in the third act of this movie.
Yeah.
Which is the Legions of Hell summon Sabak to terrorize Kahndaq. And it's like, did you feel this scene was important? Like, in my opinion, Mark, they could have gotten rid of this entire scene.
I 100% agree with you. I didn't think we need. I think this has to be the reshoot stuff, right?
I have never seen a movie where I'm going, the third act could have all been gone. This is the first time I've ever said that.
I don't know, man. It's
real talk, Mark. Like they could have gone into completely other territories. The stuff you were talking about with Justice Society, they could have said, all right, here's where we go from here with them.
There was a whole point. It was like they're gonna end this movie without Black Adam being around. Like the Justice Society's just gonna defeat Sabak, and like that's it. That's what I really thought was gonna happen.
Yeah,
really? You thought that was gonna happen?
Yeah, because I was like, well,
as soon as they stuck that thing in the Rock's mouth, I'm like, well, that's coming out in 20 minutes. It was a long time to get to that third act.
Well, I was just sitting there waiting.
There, I was like, all right, when's he gonna pull that out of his mouth and say Shazam? And
I'm just like surprised. Like, why did we need to go back to Amanda Waller with all this crap? Like, why couldn't we?
That is the weird thing that she is persisting throughout the DCU now.
Mm-hmm.
Like she has so much power apparently that she's able to summon the Justice Society. She is like demanding them go get Black Adam, and even at the end,
how many teams is she in control of? I thought it was just the Suicide Squad.
Apparently she's not in control of the Justice League for sure. I think maybe that's your answer, Mark, as to why they weren't there.
Well, is the Justice League even there? Is that even established?
And the other thing is this: like, you get the scene where he's in Amon's room, and it's all the Superman stuff, and he obviously, he lightning bolts Superman's face. You got all the Batman stuff, and this is one of the things that DC does in these movies that just drives me nuts. They're like, "Oh, Superman and Batman are in this universe." Ha 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 ha. Here they are. They're in this universe.
Cyborg
and Wonder
Flash,
Woman. They're all in this universe.
Ha 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 ha. Merchandise in that.
Yeah, it's like it's this coy thing where they're like, "Yep, they're part of it," but they don't know how to connect it efficiently, and it just feels crass and so patronizing to see it on screen.
And it
It's
feels
just
really
like,
weird because I think that, you guys didn't like Miss Marvel that much, but right, it feels earned that there's an Avengers con because everybody in the world knows that this group
yes.
of Avengers saved the world. Does anybody know that the Justice League went to Buttholistan and stopped whatever happened? Like,
No, they don't.
Buttholistan.
Because no one
That's
cares
great,
about
Scott.
the whole
like,
stand.
and so why would there be lunchboxes of Superman? Maybe Superman.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
With
Tell me why.
with that said, they're in which movie was it? Either
The bad
Justice
Justice
League
League or the
movie?
bad 4-Hour Justice League? Which one?
Well, both of them, and then I think Donna
The
Justice.
4-hour one was good. Leave
Yeah.
him alone.
Even the Donna Justice one, we see scenes where there's merchandise being sold. So there is.
Well,
that.
and in Man of Steel, in my opinion, you can sell that Superman's the real deal because of what happens in Man of Steel.
He does.
Take
he
that
does,
for what you want.
He does save a global catastrophe, but
yeah, that's a big deal. I can
Batman
live with those Superman
murdering
stuff.
people and put this guy in your lunchbox.
Exactly.
He's
let me.
He's not
100%.
murdering good people. He's murdering bad people.
And
Also,
this is another reason.
sorry.
This is another reason I hated him on. It's like
because he sucks.
he's like, you Americans come in here and mess everything up. It's like, dude, you are a superhero fanatic. You should be over the moon that these guys are here.
Right?
You do not get. He does not get to be the person that makes that
However,
claim.
maybe the Justice
movie.
Society's like the Yankees to him. Like you either love him or hate him. Like if it was a Justice League,
then say it. Then show me
boy.
that. Then show me that. Then he should have given a line of like, well, you're not the Justice League.
Yeah,
that would have been a great line.
You're not Superman. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that should have been.
Yeah, that's what he should have said. The kid was obnoxious. He was so brutal. Oh my gosh.
And forced.
So
it was
brutal.
just like, and the whole movie could have been avoided. And like this mom is like wants to protect her son, but then gives him the evil crown.
Couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh! What if he got killed with that crown? Then he becomes Sabak.
Yeah, the whole idea for the Justice Society and Black Adam was that they were going to take this MacGuffin, which was going to bring hell on earth to this guy. And their idea was, we're going to exchange hell on earth for this kid. Come on.
Confirm. Max would let the child die.
That one, maybe.
That kid, yeah.
That kid, maybe. Not going to lie to you. Hell on earth?
It was hell on earth when he was
hell
on
on
screen.
earth.
It was just awful.
And apparently the hell on earth was pretty easy to kill. I mean, you just needed like a...
Okay, see, things that were totally unnecessary. That was so dumb. All like this hell beast, like, what do I care? That was so bad.
Brutal.
It reminded me so much of the Hellboy remake, where it's just like if you've seen it, where it's like these demons are summoned, and then all of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, they're just destroyed because they were just, solved it.
Because I had a baseball bat and a lead pipe. That was like the worst game of Clue ever. It was all the people with the lead pipe in the city square. And all the demons
kill him, yeah!
Yeah, this garbage, get out of here.
Where was DDP, man? That's what
right? He was doing yoga, so he wasn't available.
Apparently, he's a really good yoga.
Mark, I can't believe you gave this a 5 out of 6. If you want to backtrack, now's your chance.
I'm not going to backtrack. Overall, like movie-wise, great. I had fun.
I have one more really thing that I hate.
You're telling me you didn't have fun seeing Black Adam rip Sabak in half?
That was pretty
That was cool. That was cool.
Yeah. I really hated, like, speaking of derivative and stealing from other movies that have probably already done it before, but the scene where Black Adam was moving really fast and everything was slowed down, all I could think of were the Quicksilver scenes from X-Men Days.
Oh, yeah.
Past. And it was just like, and they're even playing like a pop song. It was just all I think is like,
brutal.
Evan Peters did this better. All I want is some
not necessarily
Frank
Evan
Boner.
Peters, the production
Frank
team.
Boner?
Ralph Boner.
Ralph Boner, sorry.
I do like how they visually showed him moving that fast.
For Max.
Yeah, hashtag boner talk. But not the way you think it's spelled.
For Max.
Mark, just say what you need to say so we can move on.
I was just saying I did like how they made him look when he was moving fast. I like that visual representation they did.
It was the same as Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Like it was the same speed level of like you could see literally the sound waves move.
Yep.
Speaking of Man of Steel, Mark, as much as I would say this movie's mid, this post-credit scene is incredible. 6 out of 6. Seeing our boy Henry Cavill back and
I thought right away Amanda Waller meant the Green Lantern Corps, because she said, we have
Really?
people from
So
space
you
or
didn't
something like
know
that.
about this. You did not know about this
Oh
post-credit
no,
scene.
not at all, dude. I was
Oh,
just
okay.
like,
I've known about
You
this.
made it to yesterday and didn't know about it?
Good for you, Mark. I've known about this for
see,
a long time.
when movies
Good
come
for you.
out, I don't look for them. I don't be like, hey.
Well, no, they were Variety was
who-
because Variety was reporting, Mark, about Henry Cavill coming back to the DCEU. At the time it was EU. Now
Yeah,
it's
coming
DCU.
back, I heard that stuff. I didn't know he was going to be in the
But
movie.
they were talking about it. They were like saying, he's in the
like
post-credit
in his
scene.
video. He's like, "You seen Black Adam, and I'm British."
Well, see,
and hot."
I didn't.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
The
go
Rock,
looking
The
for that
Rock said
stuff.
it on tour too. Mark, The Rock
Yeah,
was
I
saying
don't go
it
looking
openly
for
in
this
interviews.
stuff. I know movies coming out. I go completely dark on that stuff. I don't look
Well, good.
for it.
I'm
don't go. I'm not you. And like, hey, Doctor Strange 2, does Reed Richards show up?
No,
Oh,
that's
does
not
Black
what
Bolt
I
show up?
looked up. That's not.
Does Captain Britain
It's
show up?
an
Oh my
interview.
gosh, they're all
This
showing
is-
up.
Mark,
I'm
this-
rude. I'm rude for this movie. Whose fault is this? It's not mine. It must
Mark,
be Jared's
it's an
fault.
interview. It's an interview. It's literally an interview for The Rock talking about the movie. And he openly speaks about it. And people are like, so apparently he's in the movie.
Yeah, no,
Like, you don't just look for that. I had no understanding
Max,
of this till like a week or two ago that he was even going to be
How do you
back.
see the video? The video just showed up on your
It's
what?
on my Twitter. It just scrolled up on my Twitter. Yes.
So
People
you
I
went
follow
on Twitter when stuff is going on. Well, maybe you shouldn't follow them, Max, so stuff doesn't get ruined.
Well, Mark, it was
look
an
at me.
open
I had
interview
the
from
light
Variety.
surprise.
What, like, you want me to?
I don't
look,
follow
I'm not,
Variety. I don't know what
I'm
to
not
tell
saying
you.
I should. I'm not saying you should follow Variety, but I'm saying that's a publishing news source.
Yeah, maybe
that
you
is
shouldn't
like
follow them
showing
anymore.
videos of that. I'm just saying that is not looking for spoilers.
So
that
no
is
wonder
just
you
them
gave it a 3 out of
reporting.
6, because you've been like forensically evaluating this movie and like
No, I'm
got it all
forensically
ruined for you.
evaluating the movie, the post-credit scene, whether I know the information or not. 6 out of 6. Our boy's back.
Yeah, he's
Our boy's back,
at the end of
and
the
that's
day,
all that matters.
After all our bickering, he's back.
He's back. Praise be. Let's go. We're finally getting it.
Get a Man of Steel 2 movie, because I
Do
remember
we
sharing
want
that
Zach?
with you.
Do we want Snyder back for it?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
I think
not?
so too. I'm
Man
with
of
you.
Steel,
I want Snyder back for the
So I
second.
finished watching this movie. I came home and started watching Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
Man of Steel is grossly underrated. I texted you, Max. It's
Yeah.
just so
Dude,
good.
the movie was so good that I remember I told my dad, I was like, we're gonna go. My dad doesn't like going to see movies, but you have to come see this movie because I think you'll enjoy it. And he did.
I
So it's
cry
that says a lot.
every time I watch Man of Steel. It is, in my opinion, aside from, obviously the Passion of the Christ, the most accurate depiction, in my opinion, of thematically who Christ is. I really believe that. Somebody who loves people so much that he is willing to go to the ends of the earth to save them. I just love it. I eat it up, Mark. I'm 100% with you. Give me Snyder back. Let's let bygones be bygones. I think if James Gunn can get that guy in a room and go, what do you want to do? I want to make this movie like this. Cool. Let's do it.
Well, they made Dawn of the
we
Dead
will
together,
go.
so they've got a relationship.
Well, that exactly, Scott. He's coming back. If James Gunn's in charge, he's like, I'm getting Zacky Boy back.
Yeah,
and we're gonna make some magic again. And it's gonna be.
And that means Affleck's coming back.
Zack Snyder
too.
can make great movies, but he shouldn't have been the one setting the entire direction for the
DC. Exactly.
However, I will argue this, and this has been heavily publicized. When Zack Snyder was making that movie, they were going through corporate changes, and there were so many hands in the cookie jar. And then he had also personal things talking about the Justice League movie.
Yeah,
that he had to step away. There was too many people involved with that portion where it's I think if it was you take it all away, I think we would have got a different movie than what we got 5 years later with Zack Snyder's Justice League. I think the vision would have been more concise and better, and I think we potentially still might have a current DCEU timeline in a different world. But now that we have two leaders, and we're gonna take, and they're probably gonna be like, hey, you know what? We're not gonna let everyone that has the higher title have input on this. We're just gonna let these directors go. And I think that's why Marvel and Disney is so much more successful with their movies because of that. They let Daddy Feige do daddy things and let the Daddy Marvel just be magnificent.
Let's get everybody back, Mark. Let's take all the good things that happened in the Justice League 4-hour cut, which is good, Scott, by the way. That's That's incorrect. It is very good. I'm not going to have that type of slander on
Okay,
our
so
podcast.
it's good, but a better filmmaker would be able to make a good movie that doesn't take 4 hours.
I can agree with that.
I
That's a
disagree
fair
with that.
assessment.
That's my
I-
assessment. It is
I
good,
can.
but a better
That's a fair
filmmaker
argument.
doesn't need 4 hours to make a good movie.
Personally,
My sermons are great, you guys. I'm sorry they take 3 hours.
I mean, there's Godfather Part 1 and Part 2. There's Justice League Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4.
I'm with you,
so
Mark. I'm with you. I think Justice
I don't know what
League
you want here.
had.
It's an
I think
ongoing
the
story.
direction they were going, Scott, was it. I hope James Gunn can do it well. I'm very excited for him to be in doing this, and I think what makes Black Adam work, though, for me, is I do think he's a formidable foe. Mark, you are correct for how much he destroys
Well-
people. He is a formidable foe for Superman.
What is it? For Superman, it's kryptonite and magic. And his enemies are basically anyone that could wield, like, you know, what Black Adam can wield, or Shazam. Like, those dudes hypothetically, can defeat Superman. So, yes,
Let's
he's
do a
gonna be very
Shazam and
difficult.
Superman versus Black Adam movie. Let's make it happen.
That's
Let's
exactly
make
what
it
I don't
happen.
want, though. Like, I don't, because Henry
But
Cavill's
are
been
they going-
Superman in 3 movies: Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Justice League. One of those movies, he got to be himself. Everything else, he's fighting somebody that he ends up fighting alongside. Like,
But how do you top what he did in Man of Steel on a solo movie? Like, do you have him go against Lex
Well,
Luthor? Because not many
or you
people
bring
loved the way that
Brainiac in.
but then in Brainiac, you're back to Man of Steel. Same concept. You're back to this machine trying to take over the globe. I'm not saying I'm against it. I think it's been enough time that I think we could get another, like, you know what? The globe's in trouble. It's time for Superman to come back and save literally everybody. You could bring some of these people back and have them die or get absolutely destroyed through the process too.
Well, I wonder if they're making Black Adam be a good guy, potentially, are they going the route of Injustice? Because in Injustice, he's a good guy, and there's the sides, and I think he sides with Batman in that. I'm not.
That is
remembering.
interesting.
So, like, that's the whole thing. Like, clearly they're making him, in my opinion, I think they're making Black Adam a good guy. For now. So that's why I think, like, yeah, you have to go with Superman. It's got to be otherworldly things. You can't do it like the faux Superman 3 with Brandon Routh, and the whole concept is Lex Luthor wants to create more real estate. So that's not really going to be a movie that everyone's want to see. I think you got to make it like a big bad again, like Brainiac.
Yeah. I think
And maybe
Brainiac's a
you have
formidable foe.
Lex Luthor, not the wrestler, Lex Luthor, in his Luthor suit, the big, the thing that he can fight him in. So you got to do stuff like that, in my opinion. So
I
Scott,
think that's a problem inherent in Superman, is that, like, literally all throughout the first Justice League or 4 hours of the Justice League, you're just waiting for Superman to show up. Like, he nullifies the rest of the Justice League. They're unnecessary once he shows up. And that's always my big problem with Superman. I could be wrong, but as somebody who just watches Superman movies and hasn't really read a Superman comic, he's just so overpowered. And it's just, all right, he's going to come and save everything. We know you were fighting, what was his name? Beetlejuice?
Darkseid?
No, the guy with the
Steppenwolf?
horns. Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Now,
I
if
think
he
I've
had
been
to fight
fighting
Beetlejuice,
Steppenwolf.
then he is an equal foe.
Beetlejuice. That's brilliant.
Okay, but with all this said,
Beetlejuice.
with this movie, I'm actually more excited for Flashpoint now, because, like, if they're having this direction where it's like that's tying in stuff, like, that could also change what's happening. So,
do you think the public will be able to overlook Ezra Miller?
yeah, he's atoning for his bad deeds. So that's what people want.
We'll see. Well, Scott, thank you for coming on and being on this episode with us. It was wonderful to spend 90 minutes with you. Actually, 2 hours for
2
us, but
hours.
90 minutes with you. It's pre-show. You got to check out the pre-show to get the other 40 minutes.
Patreon.com/The Infinity Bros. Check out the pre-show where we discuss Ghosts, Mark's Orange Light, Max making out with either
And
Mark
Scott.
or me.
I'm not making out with either of you.
There's
Don't
a lot of stuff
solicit
that
that.
happened.
Yeah.
In that pre-show that you should check out. And I'm not just saying that as, like, I'm like the hair club for men. Like, I'm not only a member, or what is it? I'm not only president, I'm also a member. Anyway, I'm a patron. I support the show because I like it and I appreciate it. So you should too.
And we support the Christian Nerd. We really do like that. We strongly encourage you to check
Mark
his
is
podcast.
literally a patron. So thank you,
He
Mark.
is. Yep.
Yeah.
So make sure you check it out. Links in the show notes. Make sure you go give Scott some support. If you're looking for someone diving into the biblical perspective on pop culture and nerd culture, there is probably no better podcast out there, in my opinion.
Thanks, man.
If you're not into that, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Don't be into it. That's
totally
cool.
fine. Don't do it. Just send him an angry email and make fun of him for me. You can even say I'm the one that wrote it. Feel free.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you for coming on. As
Max
always,
Moser,
it was
Always
real.
fun.
It was great. It was not real great.
Hey, it's
Mark,
always
I
been
enjoyed
great.
being with you. I thought it was great.
I enjoy being with both you guys. I don't know why Max is always so mean to me all the time, because I enjoy his time, his friendship, and his loving nature as a human being, and I
Thank
would
you.
never trade anything in the world for him. So, or
Mark,
Scott
I'm mean
either,
to you,
so.
but you know that I have your back and I love you as well.
Mhm.
You know this. So thank you, Infinity Bros Universe, wherever you listened, however you listened. Thanks for making your podcast experience in community with us. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On the links we all talked about pre-show, you can see those in the show notes, as well as Scott's link to the Christian Nerd Podcast. As always, we'll have you guys 3000. We'll see you soon. See ya. Bye.
Bye.